The college basketball experience Big Sky 24-25 season preview edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code TCESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. That is the promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. Welcome, everybody, into the college basketball experience Big Sky edition. Oh, we love the Big Sky over here. Very well-balanced league, and we're going to talk about it. Go team by team, give out our sleepers, our busts, and rank all these teams in order from first to last, and give out our conference champion and who we think will end up cutting down the nets and getting to March Madness. But first off, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. Also known as Mac tonight over here at the College Experience. Joining me to talk Big Sky Hoops, you guys know him as the window banging, drywall hanging, LeBaron driver, Noah Bieniek, a.k.a. Noah B77. What is up, my man?
What's going on, Mac? Excited to talk some Big Sky hoops today because of the possible parity that might be driven in this conference this year. We saw Ken Pom drop his ratings yesterday, Monday, or technically it was Sunday night, early Monday morning. And this is the conference where only 4 games separate first place from last place in the Big Sky this year. So it's going to be very exciting basketball throughout the season. It makes for a very, very tough job of prognosticating these things early on in the season, Mac.
It does. And you mentioned it. We did go check out our Ken Pom, where we broke down each and every league. We kind of hinted on some leagues that'll be tight. This league was one of our ones we highlighted between 11-7, 7-11. Could one of those teams from the bottom maybe appear, make a run at this thing, or will it be a Weber State, Montana State that's kind of been on top traditionally, hold strong here?
I don't know. So I was going through looking. There was one team that brings back 4 starters, and maybe it's continuity that lends an upper hand in this league. Or maybe it's culture. And we've seen, specifically Eastern Washington, brand new head coach, Dan Monson, who has been around the block a time or two up in the Pacific Northwest, right? So, this is a fun league. There's a couple of storylines that we'll get into when we do the individual team previews here in alphabetical order.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this league. Like I said, man, and it's not just Ken Pom. I'm over here at Torvik. Everything's between 12-6 and 6-12. There is an outlier on returning production, and could this be the year that E-Dub bounces through, gets through? They keep getting upset in the first round of the tournament by the 10 seed back-to-back years, but new coach coming in, Coach Monson from Long Beach, veteran. Montana State's always been good. Montana's always been good. Weber, of course, Damian Lillard was there. But yeah, I can't. Let's dive into this Big Sky, Noah Bieniek.
All right, the first team up is the E-Dub Eagles, with the new head coach Dan Monson coming in from the Long Beach State Dirtbags, aka the Beach or the 49ers or whatever the hell you want to call them. Good riddance, they said to Dan Monson as he wins the conference tournament after they fire him and leads them to the NCAA tournament. Cashes a big check for the school. We don't need you anymore, right? That's what the Long Beach State said. But what I wrote down as a nugget here for Monson, his teams like to run. in the last 6 of 7 years, Long Beach had a top 30 tempo in the nation offensively. So they like to run. There was quite a bit of turnover on this roster. They lose every starter from last season. So we're just going to start clean. Don't have to really go through a lot of the exitees, the ones that have departed the program, because basically everybody did. Everybody that had a hand in contributing last year, I would say. Incoming through the portal, Tyler Powell from Nevada played 9.5 minutes last season. You get a guard defect from the Wolfpack. They've got a pretty good backcourt over there, running against, why is my mind blank, and the Nevada head coach,
Steve Alford.
Yeah, Alford. So yeah, they've had a great backcourt. I mean, he's a redshirt junior, been over there for 3-4 years possibly. In that program, coming in from Des Moines area, 2 incomers. Wow, I can't speak. Angelo Winkle, a junior who put up 17 points per game, 7 boards, and 1.3 assists. And also Elijah Thomas, who averaged 10.7 points per game, over 4 boards, and 1.5 assists at Des Moines area junior college. Also coming in from High Point, Pavlo Zubia, who played 9 minutes a game for them last season. He's a 6'8" junior forward. Coming in from the NAIA ranks, Carroll College, is Andrew Cook. He played 33 minutes a season ago for them, 21 points per game, 6 boards, 3 assists, over a steal per game. He's a 6'4" senior guard. Coming in from Long Beach with Monson, Shamba Goyi. He's a redshirt freshman, didn't play much last year. He redshirted last year, I should say. And also from Lewis Clark State, up there in Big Sky Country in Idaho. That's an NAIA school as well. Sam Stockton played 25 minutes a game last season, averaged 7.3 points per game, 5 boards. 2 returnees in the backcourt here that only played 7.5 minutes in Nick McClain's case, and Sebastian Hartman played 12.5 minutes here. How much do you trust Dan Monson in year 1 and Cheney Washington, Mac?
I think they're going to clearly take a step back. Just a lot of moving pieces. And I mean, I like Monson. Don't get me wrong. He is an old school guy. He's got he's got over 400 wins, closing in on 500. Change of scenery probably is nice, but he had kind of plateaued a little bit at Long Beach before the magical run. I thought it was bullshit that they fired him before the end of the year. I mean, you at least give the guy a chance to win the conference tournament. Oh, wait, he did do that. But I think it'll take a year. I could see them peaking come March. I think they could be maybe like they've been the hunted over the last couple of years under Riley in the conference tournament, and the guy that went over to Portland before him, Legans, that got him to the dance with the Groves brothers, famously in the bubble where they honestly almost gave Kansas a game. But I just think there's a lot of moving pieces here. I consider EW kind of a middle of the pack Big Sky team this year, but I think they're dangerous come conference tournament time, and I think they're the ones pulling an upset rather than the ones being upset this time around.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I got this team as more of a middle of the pack team in the Big Sky and Munson's first year, and scrappy come February, March than I do having them as a contender. Moving on to another team that I don't really think will be contending for the title this season is Idaho, under Alex Pribble. He has led Idaho last season in year 1 to the most wins in program since in the last 5 years. So in year 1, they won more games than they had in the previous 5 years before him. So this guy was previously on the Seattle staff where they had mustered up, I think they had 20-win seasons with him as an assistant coach. He comes over here to Idaho and leads them to their best season in half a decade. They do lose from that team 2 starters, Quinn Denker, who put up 12.5 points, 3 boards, 3.5 assists, and D'Angelo Minnis in 30 minutes averaged 9.5, 2, and 3. They do grab 2 transfers in the backcourt that are expected to start. One from in-state rival Idaho State, Colton Mitchell, redshirt freshman. Colby, hit the soundboard, sound off the guns, shooting. How in the world do you steal a guard from your arch rival, in-state rival? But they did. Mitchell shot at 40% from three, 48% from the field. He only played 18 minutes, but averaged 7.5 points per game, 2 assists per game. So expand that over maybe 28 minutes, and he's a real contributor, maybe even a star. And then Isaiah Brickner comes in from Marist after playing 22.5 minutes for the Red Foxes last season. Averaged 5 points, 4.5 boards, 2.5 assists. They also bring in Jaden Stevens from Oregon State. He's a 6'7" junior who only played 7 minutes last season. They also bring in Jack Payne from Colorado State, a 6'6" redshirt sophomore who only played 2 minutes. Those two guys coming in from programs that played pretty good competition last year but didn't play much. They're looking to expand their roles. And then JoJo Anderson coming in from D3 Whitworth, put up 17.5 points per game, 3.5 boards, almost 3 assists per game, over a steal per game. He's a redshirt junior, 6 foot flat guard. Idaho's a team that I think could take another positive step under Pribble. This is another team that I kind of have in the middle of the pack. I probably would slot these guys behind Monson and Eastern Washington, but overall, I want to be a little bit more positive on Idaho than I have been in years past. And I did fall in love with this team come like February, March last season. I know Mac and Colby were giving me shit almost every other Idaho game. No, are you betting on Idaho this week or whatever? But yeah, Idaho, I'm going to be positive on their outlook this season. Mac, how about you?
Yeah, I definitely think that they are trending in the right direction. You kind of like look at what Pribble did as well when he was a head coach at St. Martin's, a Division II school, and they progress each and every year. So he proved that he can coach at this level already in year number 1. I know it says 11-21, but anybody that knows the Vandals knows that that's a step up from where they were in the basement. So I think that they're competitive. I think they can contend for maybe that middle of the pack. That would be a nice step here. And you mentioned it, 60% of their production coming back. So for a guy that's got a little bit of momentum at the end of year number 1, I mean, they started 1-7 or 1-8 in league play and then kind of played 500 balls coming down the stretch. So maybe a little bit of momentum coming into this year. And the Vandals stock going up, Noah.
Yes, sir. You know what else stock is going up? The Carolinas, because currently they're recovering from all the hurricane damage, especially in Western North Carolina. I just saw today, it was announced that Luke Combs, Eric Church, Scotty McCreary's in there, Chase Rice, a bunch of country music stars are getting together, doing a concert and fundraising. Here at SGPN, we're also doing a fundraiser with mountainprojects.org, where you can donate to help them in hurricane relief. The biggest donator will get a guest spot on the Sports Gambling Podcast College Football Picks episode. So we highly encourage you guys to help out, as we are as well. Because if you were in the same spot, you would be hoping that other people in our position would be willing to do so. And also, Colby has used this story before, but like there are a lot of people come in the chat every night for nightly pick shows, and they say like, hey, next drink's on me because you had a great gambling day and you led me to a couple of winning picks. For the beginning of this year, we'd at least like to try to like forward these guys on to mountainprojects.org. That would be the least that we could do with the following that we have. So we greatly appreciate if you would do that, mountainprojects.org, and then just hit the donate tab, and then you'll see some more directions after that. Also, if you want to help us out even further, maybe for free, and you don't not in the financial position to donate, you can always help us out by hitting that subscribe button, the like button here on YouTube or on any podcast platform, whether it be Spotify, Apple, or any others. We're out there on all of them. Leave a like, rating, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple. Leave a review on Apple, because only you guys can prevent corporate gambling from taking over. Because SGPN, we're homegrown, word of the mouth, and we continue to fight the good fight every single day. And helping us do that is Underdog Fantasy. They have one of the biggest menus for all sports for DFS. You can do pick'em entries on NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, WNBA, NASCAR, NHL, and college basketball when the season rolls around. So their lobby is jam-packed with profit boosts, and you can now use those specials and boosts on all flexed entries. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. And we are back here on the College Basketball Experience, previewing the Big Sky, going through every team in alphabetical order. Next up for us is Idaho State, the Bengals. The Bengals. They lose most of the team from last year. They lose 4 starters, having to replace those guys from a season ago. As I am going to the roster here, it's almost the whole team, to be honest. They only return.
No, they return what 22% of their production.
Yeah, they only returned Isaiah Griffin, who played 30 minutes a game last season, 7.5 points, 5 boards. But other than that, this is another team that's like completely new, just like Eastern Washington. So it doesn't really make sense to go through all of those names that are departing. Let's just talk about the incomers. Dylan Darling from Washington State played 3 minutes for the Cougs last year. He's expected to run the point. He's a redshirt sophomore, 6'2" guard. This team does have some unexpected length to it. They do bring in the number 13 overall recruit when it comes to JUCO Recruiting's rankings online. 23 points per game from Joey Madimba from Howard Junior College. He was at Tarleton previously in the D1 level. Like I said, 23 points per game, 6 boards, 1.3 assists per game. And also from the junior college ranks, Blake DeBurco, who put up 15 points per game, 7.5 boards, 1.8 assists at Central Junior College. He's a 6'10 junior in the front court. Coming in from Wofford is Quentin Meza, who played 18 minutes a game for the Terriers last season, shot at 36.5% from 3. He's a 6-foot sophomore. Cam Slaymaker, that is a hell of a last name. He's a D2 transfer from Southern Nazarene, who played 35 minutes a game last season for them, 16 points, 4.5 boards, shot at 35.5% from 3. And Jake O'Neill, a 6'4 graduate senior, played 23 minutes last season for College of Idaho, averaged 10 and 8 for them. And then Connor Hollenbeck from D2 Minute State played 29 minutes, averaged 11.8 points, 7 boards. Look, this is a brand new roster, not something that you would love to back. Might have been a good thing though, Mac, as they weren't tremendous last year. So might have been some additions by subtractions. What are your thoughts when it comes to Idaho State this season?
Tough team to gauge with all the newcomers. You read them off. They struggled down the stretch because they were playing decent ball. They're around 6-5 headed into February in league play. And then they lost like 6 out of 7. But then they did pull off 2 upsets in the conference tournament. Ryan Looney in his 6th year, I mean, he's been able to keep them kind of in the middle of the pack. The Bengals, the opposite of the
Vandals.
Vandals.
Never had a 500 or a winning season, though. I wouldn't say middle.
He's at Idaho State. I mean, come on, give him a little bit of slack. But I mean, he has also a proven track record at different levels. Point Loma. I always butcher that name, in Seattle Pacific. So he's been a head coach since 2005. So kind of an older guy.
He's not even the only Point Loma head coach, right? In this conference this year, because didn't Logie come from Point Loma, Montana State's head coach? I might be putting you on the spot, but for some reason I remember that from last year.
Logie, yeah, because Logie came over. Yes, he did. You're right.
Yeah.
So we do have 2 Point Lomas in this league. But I mean, the bottom line is I think that they're probably going to take a little bit of a step back, just because they finished 5th and 7th. So maybe, I don't know, kind of around that 7-8 range for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna have this team in the bottom half as well.
Yeah, they're definitely in
Not
the
much.
bottom half, just saw that they lost.
Yeah, not much to really love here on paper, but Looney coming from the D2 and junior college ranks, like you would trust him to bring in some good replacements for a roster that didn't have it for 3 of the months of the season.
And he's in 6 years, so I mean, he knows the lay of the land in the league.
Yeah, For me, I think Idaho State's going to be a bottom half team for me. Let's talk about Montana next up for us alphabetically. The Grizz. They have had the second best offense in the Big Sky for 2 straight seasons, but they also are replacing 4 starters for this upcoming season.
Yeah.
So again, they have 8 departures. Like, I'd rather just focus on a lot of the incoming class here, and maybe the biggest get is what you've already had in Brandon Whitney. He's a graduate senior returning officially for his final season of college basketball. I think this guy was in the portal as well. So a great get back. 31 and a half minutes, 10 and a half points, 3 boards, 4 assists per game. Shot at 40.5% from 3, 51% from the field. Expected to take over. Expected to run the point for the Grizz once again this season. If you're going to bring back one starter, make it your point guard, and they have that. Supporting him in the backcourt, you got Money Williams, who played 21 minutes a game last season, 13 and a half points, 4 boards, 3.5 assists. He was more of a volume shooter last year, so I expect them to have kind of the same role with a lot of uncertainty around some certain contributors on this team. So it's basically going to be him and Brandon Whitney, I think. 6'4" senior coming in from D2 Western Washington, Kai Johnson, played 33 minutes a game there, 21 and a half points per game, 4.5 boards, 3.5 assists, over 1 steal per game, shot at 41.5% from 3. From Northeastern Junior College, Jalen Foy, 14 points per game, 8 boards, 3 assists. From Sacramento State, Austin Patterson, a 6'3" senior guard, 28 minutes, 9.5 points, 3.5 boards, 1.5 assists. Pepperdine transfer Malik Moore, played 27.5 minutes last season, averaged 9 points per game. Northeastern transfer Joe Pridgeon, played 24.5 minutes. He's a 6'5" graduate senior guard. Scored 9 points, 5 boards, 2 assists per game. Coming in from Green Bay, Amari Judkins, a redshirt sophomore, averaged 15.5 minutes last season for the Phoenix under Sundance Wicks. And then in from St. Mary's, a 6'10" redshirt freshman Australian, Jensen Bradkey. Montana has been a pretty good basketball program over the years. This seems more of a wait and see through December, see how well they're playing, and maybe this is a team that peaks come February, March as well, with how well their culture is. But it's a team that I'm going to have to pause a lot of expectations from me early on, right?
Well, you're going to get plenty of opportunities. They play Oregon and Tennessee within a month from now, so they're going to be tested right out of the gate, and Utah State on the road. But I mean, we know what we're getting with DeQuire. He's been there 10 years already. They've never had a losing season in his 10 years. He took over for Big Tink out there, who went to Oregon State. So I mean, this is going to be a top 4 team for me, just off of culture and pedigree. And I mean, they have not won the regular season since 2019, which I've been a little bit surprised. Montana State quietly taking a little bit of the reins here in the Big Sky compared to the Grizz. So I mean, I like the point guard play and the guys that they brought in, but let's see how they mesh. But definitely a top 4 team in the Big Sky for me.
Yeah, I've got them in the top half of the standings as well. We're going to take one more pause for BetUS, because BetUS is a proud partner of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and they've been around for more than 30 years. You can easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts when you want to cash out. U.S. players are always welcome here, and sign up and you can deposit $100. You have a chance to win a 1960 Ford Mustang. Use our link to sign up and get a 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. Promo code SGPN so they know we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. And the College Basketball Experience's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model or copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, and Rhythm will give you predictions for every game and player prop, which also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And we are home free today on today's episode of the College Basketball Experience, where we're previewing the Big Sky Basketball Conference, every team alphabetical order. Next up for us is those Montana State Bobcats, Mac, that you mentioned during their in-state rivals team preview. Montana State's been a pretty damn good program as of recent. They represented this team in they represented this conference in the NCAA tournament last season. They kind of were one of the teams that we're profiling both Eastern Washington and Montana as of this year. They weren't playing great early, and they got hot late. And Montana State, during Matt Logie's first year, they had the best 3-point shooting percentage in the Big Sky. They just started hitting them and drilling them in the Big Sky tournament, made a little bit of a run. And they had the second best defense overall throughout the regular season. So 3-D, that was a great formula to win in the Big Sky tournament last season. They do lose Robert Ford III. Shot at 44% from 3, 48% from the field, played 34 minutes, averaged 16 points, 7.5 boards, 3 assists per game, 3 steals per game. Absolute stud for the Bobcats. And they also lose Eddie Turner III. Played 28.5 minutes last season for the Bobcats, 9.5 points, 3.5 assists. So they're replacing their point guard and center, Mac. Tough. But they do return Tyler Patterson, who played 35 minutes a game last season, averaged 8 points, shot at 37.3% from the field, or from 3, sorry. And then Brian Garacki, who is a senior, 6'6" guard. Patterson's 6'8", by the way. This is a big backcourt. Garacki played 30.5 minutes last season, 13.5 points, 4.5 boards, shot at 36.5% from 3. And Brandon Walker, in 19.5 minutes last season, put up 13 points and 4 boards, 56% from the field. They do bring in from Utah State Max Agankpolo, graduate senior, 6'9" forward, 23.5 minutes last season for the Aggies, averaged 5.5 and 4 boards. And coming in, the expected point guard from Salt Lake Junior College, the number 42 ranked junior college recruit via JUCO recruiting ranking.com. 10.5 points per game. Bryce Zephyr, 4 boards, 3 assists per game. He's going to come in, expect to hit a couple of threes when he can, but mostly facilitate this team that has shot it pretty well under Logie through one season. Will look to do that again. Jeremiah Davis coming off the bench, expected to come off the bench. Number 16 junior college recruit in the offseason, 14 points per game for Fullerton Community College last season, averaged 4 boards, 2 assists per game as well. Jabe Mullins coming in from Washington State, played only 9 minutes for the Cougars last season. And then from the D2 ranks from Western Washington, BJ Colley played 20.5 minutes, 10 points, 4 boards per game, 1.5 assists. Mac, what are your thoughts on the defending Big Sky tournament champions?
Yeah, keyword tournament. They definitely were not the best team throughout the regular season last year. They got hot, but they were playing the best at the end of the year, like we said, and we've kind of talked about with some of the teams this year. I like for them to be more consistent in year two under Logie. I think I like the way that they were finishing last year. I liked what you look at his track record at Whitworth and Point Loma. I mean, he had both those programs winning year in and year out. So I think this is a team that has a little bit more of an identity in year number two. They don't have the point guard that Montana has coming back in terms of production. But Jeremiah Davis, I think, is going to fit right in. He's not, like I said, he's not Brandon Whitney from a proven production standpoint in this league. But I do, I've read really good things about that incoming class for the Bobcats.
Cool. Yeah, Montana. What'd you say? Oh, sorry.
I said easily top 4, top 3 team.
Yeah, Montana State's a team that I'm gonna predict that they have a similar outcome to last season, where they're kind of fourth in the Big Sky. But I don't think they start nearly as slow because they are returning the 3 starters. Just replacing your point guard and center is tough early in the season. So a team that I'm probably not going to be as high on in November, but I see this team as a top half borderline contender in the Big Sky. There are a couple other teams on paper that I do like more than Montana State. Next up for us in alphabetical order, we're going to get to one of the teams that on paper looks pretty attractive to me. Northern Arizona. They returned 4 starters from last season, but that's like the only positive that you can say here, because under Shane Burkhart, they've never finished above 500 in the Big Sky. So this is another one where, like, are you betting on returnees or are you betting on program culture? Because if you're looking at Northern Arizona, the only starter that they lose from last season is Liam Lloyd. He transfers out after playing 29 minutes, but he wasn't even a top 5 scorer for them. They returned all top 5 scorers from last season, no bigger than Trent McLaughlin, who put up 16.5 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, 1.5 steals per game, shot at 33% from deep. He's a 6'6" senior guard. They also bring back Oakland Fort, the 5'10" point guard. He's a junior now, 30.5 minutes last season, put up 10 points per game, 4 boards, 3 assists. 4 boards is pretty impressive for a 5'10" point guard. Jaden Jackson averaged 10 points last game, 4 boards, 2 assists, shot at 51% from the field in 29.5 minutes. Carson Tout played 28.5 minutes last season, 10 points per game, 8 rebounds per game. He shot at 53% from the field. The replacement in the front court here is Ali Ragab, Mac, from West Virginia. He didn't play last season.
He didn't play at all.
Yeah. So redshirted maybe, or didn't play. But Ali Ragab is coming into Northern Arizona. He went from being a mountaineer to being a lumberjack. The other incomer from D1 level is Monty Bowser, coming in from Cal, played 11 minutes for them last season. Lay Rickwood Pitt comes in from Eastern Arizona after putting up 8 points per game, 6 boards, 1 assist. And from Pima Junior College, Dylan Baker, 18 points per game, 4.5 boards, 2 assists per contest. I will say that Carson Basham was expected to return this season, but he was academically ineligible. So he played 24.5 minutes last season. A little bit of a hit to the depth of this team, but overall, I do like what I see on paper, and this could be the first year that they do finish above 500 in conference play. Mac, under Burkhart. How about you? What do you think?
Well, so it's been an interesting trajectory with Burkhart. Year 1, 16-14, 500 in league play, 10-10. But then every other year, 6 wins, then 9 wins, then 12 wins, then to 14 wins. So they've been climbing every single year. Bring back everybody. My question is, what's the ceiling, though? They're bringing back everybody off a 14-19 team. They should be better. They're by far the most. They're as experienced as any team in the country. To be honest, middle of the pack. I think they maybe win 2 or 3 more games, but I'm not going to put them in the top 4. I don't think. I don't know how good the returning production is for the Lumberjacks. I mean, I know they won't finish worse than last year because they bring everybody back, but it's another year in the system. We'll see.
I have to be bullish on these guys because they do have all the continuity that you could ask for, and they do have a 7-footer in the front court, and they do have a scrappy team on the glass. I'm going to like Northern Arizona this year. I think they contend for a title. I think they take a gigantic step up in the Big Sky. That's my take on it. It's a little bit bold for what they've recently been, but when it comes to returning production, it's hard to match it. It's like some of the best in the country for mid-majors. So I'm a little bit higher than most on Northern Arizona here in the preseason. Let's talk about another Northern team, the Northern Colorado Bears, the UNCO or NOCO Bears here. Whatever abbreviation you want to go with.
This is a good program.
Under Steve Smiley. They've had 3 straight seasons with top 4 offenses inside the Big Sky. And they've constantly churned out big time scorers. Last season, they do lose St. Thomas. He transfers out to USC after putting up 19.5 points. They do lose DeJour Reeves, who put up 15 points. He transferred out as well in 29 minutes. All the other hits, not nearly as big. Riley Abercrombie, Theo Hughes, Jalen Page, Connor Creech, Makai Cameron, Juju Ramirez. Incoming, I don't know if there's a guy that jumps off the roster that is immediately going to replace like your St. Thomas or Dalton Connect of years past. But last year, St. Thomas was not like the guy coming in from Loyola Chicago. He had quit playing basketball. He took a complete year off and came back and was an all-star for Northern Colorado. So I trust that Smiley's system is going to produce somebody that's going to be a 15-point per game scorer. You can look at Jaron Riley, who returns, who played 34 minutes a game last season, 11 points, 4 boards, 4.5 assists, shot at 34% from 3, 47% from the field. Or you can look at returning forward Brock Wentz. He's a 6'9 junior who played 26.5 minutes last season, 11.5 points, 4.5 boards, 1.5 assists, shot at 61.5% from the field. Or there's 5 transfers coming in. Quinn Denker from Idaho in conference again. 33 minutes per game for the Vandals last season, 12.5 points, 3.5 boards, 3.5 assists, shot at 34% from 3. Or VMI, who loves to chuck up the 3-pointers. Tayshad Jackson comes in from VMI, 33% from deep, 10.5 points per game, 10.5 boards per game. As a guard, he's a 6'6 junior. And then Isaiah Hawthorne comes in from USF, San Francisco, the Dons, 11.5 minutes last season for Hawthorne. There, he's a graduate senior looking for a little bit more playing time here at Northern Colorado. And then coming in from San Jose State, William Humer played 11.5 minutes for the Spartans last season. And then from Eastern Florida State, Luca Colcag, who put up 10.5 points, 6.8 rebounds per game, and just over a block per game last season. Northern Colorado is going to put up points, Mac. I don't really know how they're going to do it, but I trust the offensive system that this is going to be a team that's going to be pretty fun to watch this year.
They play really good offense. They run good stuff. Linder started it, then he went over to Wyoming, handed it off to Smiley. The only thing that concerns me, they kind of been a little bit of a boomerang program where they go 7th, then up to 3rd, then they come back down to 8th, then back up to 2nd. So it's kind of an every other year program, and last year overachieving, finishing 2nd. But I mean, like you said, they have an identity. They're going to be good offensively under Smiley. They're a top half of the league team for me, but I don't have them up at the top with the Montanas and the team that starts with a W here in a little bit.
You mentioned the boomerang thing. I looked at that trend. You had one good year, one bad year, one good year, one bad year.
Yep.
This is the year where like they finish in the bottom half of the conference again. Like
I know. I hope come on. Let's go. Let's get a little consistency, Smiley.
Yeah, there are some other teams on paper that I do like better than Northern Colorado. So I'm going to predict the bottom half finish for the Bears this season. Don't hate me. But next up for us, alphabetical order-wise, Portland State, the Vikings. The Vikings have had 3 straight top 3 and top 80 overall tempo teams. So top 3 in the Big Sky, top 80 in the nation in tempo. But in the last 3 seasons where they've had top 3 tempos in the Big Sky, they've had a bottom half offense when it comes to offensive efficiency. So not quite sure it's the most flawless offensive system under Jace Coburn here. They do lose a couple of contributors from last year's season, last year's team. KJ Allen played 27 minutes, 13.5 points, 7.5 boards. He's transferred out. Jarrell Satterfield also is out of eligibility after playing 26.5 minutes last season, 8 points, 3.5 boards. Bobby Harvey played 25.5 minutes last season, 9 points, 2.5 boards. He's out. Kendall Munson transfers out after playing 20 minutes last season. Coming in, this is a pretty good transfer portal class. Quite a few seniors. I honestly like it coming in from the portal. I don't know how to say this first name. I've never seen it before. QI, it's giant, but with a Q instead of a G. So Giant Quiet Myers. I don't know why I'm stumbling over the name so much, but he's a D2 transfer from Western Oregon. He played 34 minutes in 9 games last season, 16.5 points, 4.5 boards, 6.5 assists per game, but he preserved a year of eligibility, left the team early. So red flag for me, but he was a 6'5" senior point guard, so that's a positive for sure. Shane Noel Shane Knoll coming in from UNLV after only playing 9.5 minutes for the Runnin' Rebs last season. He's a 6'6" senior guard, another big lanky guard for these Vikings. 6'3" senior who played 14 minutes for Louisiana Tech. He's the first of 2 Bulldog transfers here. Jalen Henderson, who played 14 minutes, 3.5 points per game, 1.5 assists. And then the other Bulldog coming in from the portal, another senior, 6'8", Terry Miller Jr. Played 9 minutes last season, 3 points, 2 boards, 48% from the field. They do return 2 guys that played more than 20 minutes last season. Ismail Habib, who's a 6-foot senior guard, 27 minutes from last season, averaged 3 assists, 9 points per game. And then Isaiah Johnson, who played 22 minutes a game last season, averaged just over 9 points, just under 5 boards per game, shot at 45.7% from the field. Portland State's an enigma to me. I don't know what I'm going to get from this team. I like the portal class. Giant Myers is what I'm going to call him. Like I said, I mean, you got to love that he's willing to dish it and he can get you a bucket, but I don't know what the circumstances of him leaving the team last year early were, and I don't like it more than I do some of the other programs that I can trust the culture in the Big Sky, and I don't like it more than a couple other programs that return more production than Portland State. So this is a team that I also kind of have finishing in the bottom half of the conference. Mac, how about you?
So under Coburn, headed into his 4th year, they finished 7th basically every single year. Last year they took a step up, finished 6th. So right around that 500 mark is what they've been. And I kind of think they're going to be more of the same this year. They don't have that much coming back, like you alluded to. A lot of question marks on this roster. Coburn, I need to see some consistent, or I mean, I guess it has been consistent, but I need to see it in year number 4 for me to believe it, to take a jump with the Vikings. I just think that they kind of just been right in the middle, and I think they're going to stay right in the middle once again, just with this roster that's got some question marks.
All righty. So some viewers or listeners might be thinking, these guys can't be positive on every roster, right? Like they've been speaking pretty glowingly of a lot of the situations going on. Well, we present to you the dumpster fire that also kind of wants to go into the Pac-12, but they're currently in a rough spot basketball program wise. Their head coach, David Patrick, after last season left super late, like late May, for the assistant coach job at LSU. So They promote from within interim Michael Chapil, I think is how you would say this last name. It's CZE, so I think it's Chapil, Pil, to finish that last name. Look, they're young, which is like, honestly, it's a little bit of a rarity when it comes to this conference. A lot of these teams are quite experienced. This is the second youngest team, according to Torvik, here in the preseason in the Big Sky. They do lose 4 guys that played 20 minutes or more last season. Starts with Z Hamoda, who put up 12 points per game, 4 boards. Duncan Powell transfers out after putting up 12 and 7. Austin Patterson played 28 minutes last season, 9.5 and 3.5 with 1.5 assists. And then Brendan Betson played 21.5 minutes last season, averaged 9.5 points. Akolda Maywin put up 6.3 points, 3.5 boards in 18.5 minutes. And also Quadri Adams transfers out. Coming in from the portal is Jalen Petre, 16.5 minutes last season, 4 points per game, 3.5 boards. Coming in from Idaho in conference again, you just kind of cringe, but it's EJ Neal, 18.5 minutes last season, 6 points, 2 boards. From the JUCO ranks, South Georgia Tech, Deontay Williams put up 15 points per game, 6.5 boards, 4.5 assists. And from University of Alberta, Julian Vaughns. He's missed the last 2 seasons, though, so don't know what you're going to get from him. And like I said, this team's young. Bailey Nunn, sophomore. Emil Skidda, junior. Alex Kochevichev, sophomore. Jalen Petrie, junior. Bowen Beatty, sophomore. That's the expected starting 5. But going through the bench, too, quite a few juniors and sophomores and 3 freshmen. I'm not high on Sacramento State. I think they were put in a super tough position having to replace their coach in June. That's just not a position that you would like to be for a college basketball program. Mac, are you kind of feeling the same way here?
Yeah, super young, and then obviously promoting within Zapol is I'm on their page right now, and they do have a nice little pronunciation. So Zapol, and he's what third? He's in his early 30s, so a very young coach with a very young team. I'm sure there's going to be some energy just because it's a new opportunity, getting the chance to run his own program. But man, how can you buy into this team in the preseason? I got to see it. But hey, man, maybe they shock everybody. We've seen these interim coaches where they rally around the interim coach and they overachieve, whether it was Fairfield last year. We've seen it with other who was it? It was Charlotte as well last year. There's been multiple times where we've seen the interim coach rally the team and they go and have a hell of a year. But Sac State definitely got some question marks here.
Yeah, there are some concerns with the program in the current state. Let's talk about a program that does not have any types of concerns in their current state. It's Weber State under Eric Duff. They've finished 3rd and 4th place in the first 2 seasons of Duff's tenure here, with top 2 defenses in both years in the Big Sky. So this team is due. They only lose 2 starters from last season. They replace them with a senior from in-conference and a Utah State transfer that's a junior who's just looking for more playing time. So this roster immediately jumps off the page as a title contender in the Big Sky. Like I said, they do lose Dylan Jones. He played 37 minutes last season, averaged 21 points, 10 rebounds per game, 5 assists, 2 steals. He stuffed the stat sheet for the Wildcats last year. And Steven Verplanken Jr. played 33 minutes, 12 points per game, 3 boards, shot at 38.5% from 3. Those are the only 2 contributors that they lose. They do lose KJ Cunningham, who played 19.5 minutes, only put up 5 points. Arnaud Ravaz, Cole Lake, Chris Dockery, Hanjay Tamba, and Louis Jordan also hit the transfer portal. Coming in, like I said, that Idaho State transfer from in-conference, Miguel Tomley, who played 31 minutes a season ago for the Bengals, 14 points per game, 3 boards, 2 assists, shot at 38.3% from 3. And then Nigel Burris is the Utah State transfer, played 5 minutes for the Aggies last season. They also bring in Vasily Vucinic from Portland, who played 12 minutes last season. The returning starters, Blaise Thurrott, who Blaze Threat. I think I said that wrong. Blaze Threat. He's a 6'3" senior point guard who played 24 minutes last season, averaged 11 points, 3.5 boards, 2 assists. Dyshawn Kaler played 30.5 minutes last season. He's a 6'7" senior forward, 4 boards, 10 points per game, 33% from 3 last season. And Alex, too, a 6'11" senior who played 23 minutes last season, 7 points per game, 4 boards, shot at 58% from the field. Look, I like the returnees. This is a program that has been, really, really good in the past in the Big Sky. They haven't won a title in a few years. They're due. I think Weber State is the front runner in the clubhouse to win the Big Sky this season, Mac.
No, you realize Weber has not won the regular season or the tournament since 2016.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, but, they've been competitive. They've been in the top 4 every year outside of the COVID year. So, Randy Raw, he did an unbelievable job there coaching for, almost 20 years. Duff was there every step of the way. He hands over the reins to him. They've been solid these last couple of years, like you mentioned, 3rd and 4th place. This is the year with the returning production in the backcourt and just overall on this roster. I think that they're right there to win the league. I love Weber State this year, and they don't have a Damian Lillard like they had once upon a time, but they got good guards and they got good experience. And Duff's, I think, is a pretty good coach.
Yeah, let's jump into these rankings because I think we agree when it comes to Weber State. Outside of that, though, is where there's plenty of questions in this conference. Like we said, according to Torvik and KenPom, but specifically KenPom, this was the tightest conference when it comes to first to last place. Only 4 games separating it all. To me, I think it's a little bit wider than that, but that's what the computers are saying. So we, the people, trying to prognosticate this thing. Let's figure out if we agree on some of the ordering of these teams here in the preseason, Mac. Beginning at 10, it's Sacramento State, right?
I do have Sac State. Sorry,
Okay.
Sac State.
Yeah, sorry, Stack. But you can have the honors now. So going to 9.
At number 9, I did have him taking a step back. I think I got to go with Ryan Looney and Idaho State.
Yep, I had Idaho State at 9 as well.
Okay. Next up on the dock, this is where I had Portland State.
Yep, I agree with you there as well. Portland State at 8.
At number 7, this is where I think I'm going to have Coach Dan Monson come in with E-Dub. Like I said, I think that they're going to get better and better, but I think they take a little bit of a step back here.
I have Northern Colorado 7th.
Ooh.
I have the Bears 7th.
Okay. At number 6, I have. Well, they're always right here. Northern Arizona. They always finish 6th. So yeah, Northern Arizona finishes 6th again, even with all that returning production.
I got the Vandals 6th. Give me Idaho at 6. I think they take a step up into the middle of this conference, and they steal some games on the road and they protect home floor.
This is where I have those Vandals, baby. I like what Coach Pribble's built there. I think they take another step. They finish 5th here.
Okay, 5th I have Eastern Washington. So we kind of agree on a couple of teams here in the middle. Just flipped around the order on Eastern Washington and Idaho. You have Northern Colorado a little bit higher than me. I have Northern Arizona a little bit higher than you. Let's get to the top 4. Number 4, who do you have?
This is where I got NOCO, aka the Northern Colorado Bears. So yeah, I'm with you. Come on, Smiley. Let's get a little consistency here.
Give me Montana at 4. I think that replacing 4 starters lowers the ceiling a little bit because they're going to start slow is my prediction. But I think they're a team as well that plays their best ball come near the end of the season. Like I think Eastern Washington and one more team here. So, yeah.
I got Montana State at 3. I think it's a good roster, but I think they do still have some question marks. I want them at number 3.
I have Montana State at 3 as well. I like what Logie did in the first year. They were playing their best ball. Come March, they got really hot. They win the Big Sky tournament. I think some of that momentum rolls over into the beginning of the year. They do replace their point guard and center. So those are two questions that I have on the roster. And that's why I think 3, honestly, is one of the better outcomes that you could have for Montana State this season. Who do you have it to?
I have the Grizz, Montana. They got the best player, arguably coming back, Brandon Whitney. And I think, I think they're going to stay relevant, man. They always find a way to climb up in that top 3, top 4. So I got to finish in second here.
A team that I think becomes relevant this season is Northern Arizona.
Oh,
I have them at 2. I like all the returning production in a conference race that's predicted to be so tight. I think that's going to help them, as this is the core that made a little bit of a run in the Big Sky tournament 2 years ago, who were feisty. So I think Northern Arizona finishes second in the Big Sky.
And at number 1, the Wildcats, Weber State. We got to look, man. Who does Weber State have in bye games this year? Because they could be feisty.
I don't know if they're going to be that good.
At Oregon State?
I think they could win that
game outright. They're going to be like a freaking 5-point underdog.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be so good to where they're low key a Titan killer this non-con season, but definitely good enough to be the easy front runner in the Big Sky.
Could they win at Nevada?
No.
They could win at Oregon State, though.
Yes. 100%.
Yes.
Tournament title, do you think Weber takes it down?
Yeah, I have chalk in this one. I think Weber State sweeps it, gets back to the dance for the first time in almost a decade.
It's been a minute since we've had one of these conferences, but I'm going to do my normal charade. Look, I think in mid-majors conferences, I want the number 1 team representing the conference come March. That's how I think you get the best NCAA tournament. So give me the best teams in the tournament. I think Weber State is your number 1 team in the Big Sky this season. Sleeper, Northern Arizona for me, Mac. They finished in the top half of the conference for the first time under Shane Burkhardt. Mac?
Idaho?
Yeah, sure.
Finishing 5th? Up 5?
The fighting potatoes.
Yeah, I like the potatoes this year. I like the trajectory. My bust. E-Dub.
Who is your bust?
I think E-Dub's both are busts.
Yeah, it's tough.
They've won the regular season back-to-back years, and now we have them both finishing, 7th or 6th?
Yeah, I think with a preseason poll, a media poll, they would probably be predicted to finish kind of where we have them. But, yeah, that's the bust for you.
Dude, that's a team we need to fade in November and December because they're going to not be catching as big in numbers. And we faded them last year because they found their stride under Riley come conference play. But it's going to take them. It's going to take some months with continuity.
Yeah, they wouldn't be a fade on the cocktail napkin. KenPom has them 7th in this conference. So it might actually, based on where he has them, it might actually be a bye come conference play. But early on, I've got some questions on E-Dub, but I don't expect them to finish in the bottom half of this league. I think they'll be a top half finisher. That's certainly surprising. Anything else that jumps out to me? I don't think anything's. Portland State's probably the fade for the cocktail napkin here. KenPom's got them finishing 5th. Negative 5 points to the average competition in college basketball on a neutral floor. I've got them finishing pretty low. I've got them 8th in this conference, which would put them at minus 8 3/4. So bump them down a possession in your power rankings. And I think that's it for the Big Sky. So 1 fade, Portland State.
Biggest mystery team, Sac State.
No,
we don't know anything about this team.
No, the team that I honestly thought was a mystery was who had all the D2 transfers coming in. Was that Idaho State? That's the mystery for me.
I'm a Vandals guy.
Yeah, Ryan Looney hit the portal hard with a bunch of junior college and D2 transfers. So
We shall
That
see.
was the team I had tough time predicting what was going to happen. So by virtue of that, they were 9th. Maybe that's a little bit of a disrespectful ranking. Prove us wrong, Looney. That's going to wrap up the Big Sky Conference preview here. Mac, anything else that you want to add?
That's all I got. Can't wait for Vandals versus Bengals on the hardwood.
There we go. This has been the college basketball experience. If you're looking for more conference preview stuff, we've got them all playlisted on our YouTube channel where you can just binge them all. You can watch one right into the other on the College Experience SGPN YouTube channel. We've got the college basketball experience, the college baseball experience, the college football experience, the FCS college football experience, the Big 12 college experience. And also there's more from SGPN. If you're more of a hockey guy, if you're more of an NBA guy, if you're an NFL guy, we've got a podcast for everybody. Or you can check out the Sports Gambling Podcast. They talk NFL every single day, but also they dip their toes into some of the biggest sporting events of the calendar year and are getting down on whatever action there is in sports throughout the year. So Sports Gambling Podcast, Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Do us a favor. Follow us wherever on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at NoahB77_. Mac is on Twitter at Moneyline_Mac. This has been the college basketball experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here. Adios, amigos.